All right, it's about that time of the year where I get to decide what is my favorite game that I played this year, aka 2018. And choosing a game of the year was actually kind of a challenge. I've played more games this year than I have any other year. There's only one other year, 2017, but surprisingly, there weren't as many 2018 games that I thought I played a lot more than I played. So the pickings were, I guess, greater than they were last year, but for some reason it just wasn't a bigger pool than I expected to choose from. So I definitely gotta say that out of the list, there was a little bit of a struggle because I played a lot of JRPGs this year, and I wasn't really sure where I wanted to draw the line for my criteria because there's a lot of games that I liked, and there's really not much to differentiate of which one I liked more and which one I didn't. So the choices that I have are they're kind of nebulous in the fact that I could really choose maybe any one of these, but whatever. So the first game, aka my favorite game for 2018, aka my game of the year, is Dragon Quest XI: Echoes of the Elusive Age. This game kind of, or it was kind of weird because on one hand I knew exactly what to expect for Dragon Quest. It's the same formula across all other games. You know what kind of combat you're gonna get. You know you're gonna get a wide and expansive story, and you know you're gonna get a lot of colorful characters and a lot of I guess vivid personalities. But on the other hand, I knew that it was going to be a Dragon Quest game, and the Dragon Quest games are kind of JRPG to a fault in some ways. And so that made this game kind of uh, difficult when I wanted to decide whether this was actually the best game that I played or what I felt was the best game that I played. And ultimately, it did come down to that. Uh, I I loved so much about this game that there was very little to actually complain about. The story was really nice. The characters were really nice. The combat was nice and smooth. The gameplay as a whole, like everything constructed in this game, were just done really, really well. And on top of that, they voice acted the entire main story quest. And you know, if you watch any of my other videos that where they don't have voice acting, they do like half voice acting, you'll know that stuff just gets on my nerves. So there was a lot to appreciate about this game, and a lot of the things that I didn't like about it were just kind of minor annoyances or things that I could generally overlook because the rest of the game was so polished and just so good. So Dragon Quest XI is my game of the year, and it was kind of tough to choose that. But ultimately, the polish, the story, and the characters really did just kind of tip it over the edge, just a little bit over some of the competition that I have for it. And with that, I'm going to move on to my favorite game played this year. This is not restricted by games that released in 2018. This is just any game that I played in 2018. And you know, there's quite a few of those. You know, I played Golden Sun, I played Pillars of Eternity 2, which came out this year. I played World of Warcraft, you know. I played a lot of games. But if you've been keeping up with all the games that I've played, you're gonna know that there was there was one game in particular that really stood out to me, and that was Kingdom Hearts 2. I had a rough patch getting to Kingdom Hearts 2, but it worked out in the end. I had never done a franchise playthrough before. I had never played so many games in a series in such a quick succession before. And so before I got to Kingdom Hearts 2, it was it was 100% looking grim. There was nothing that I could hope for than Kingdom Hearts 2 to just be a great game. But all the signs are pointing to it was an okay game. It was a mediocre game. It just wasn't going to be up to snuff. But it blew my expectations away, and it just conquered everything. I don't have all the words to really describe just how low of a bar it needed to beat and how far it exceeded that bar. It just blew my expectations out of the water, and there was so little to complain about that because it improved upon its predecessor so much. I greatly enjoyed playing Kingdom Hearts 2, and it's got me super excited for Kingdom Hearts 3 that's going to come out in January, and I am going to be playing that. So, really, really excited for that. Now, I get to go on to my most disappointing game of the year. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say that game is going to be Kingdom Hearts 1. And, just without further ado, let's just go ahead and roll the footage, okay? I know what you guys are thinking, so just roll the footage, okay? And how about Kingdom Hearts? Honestly, I have literally no idea what's going on in the story, but I still love the first installment so much that Kingdom Hearts 3 is an instant purchase for me.
But I still love the first installment so much.
I said to myself, you know what? I really like Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. They're fantastic. And here we are, trying to play Kingdom Hearts 1, and I gotta say, it's really, really rough. I don't like this game, and I'm gonna arguably say that this game, might actually be on the spectrum of not a good game. Kingdom Hearts 1, I'm just probably gonna go ahead and say it. It was probably, if not definitively, the worst game I have played in many, many years. There were just issues abound with Kingdom Hearts 1, and it was a very unenjoyable experience for me. And I don't think I can go back and play that game ever, based off my experience with it so far. It was that bad for me. All right, all right. So we got that out of the way. All right. Yes, Kingdom Hearts 1 was, I guess, just a nostalgia trap for me, and I guess that in of itself was one of those rare times where, maybe not even rare times, but just one of those times where nostalgia really does take you by surprise. And I had so many great memories of Kingdom Hearts 1, and maybe it's just encapsulated in that time period because, if I were to go back in time, if I were just to go back in time and just lose all memory of the future that we are in now and play Kingdom Hearts 1 again, it would probably be an amazing game. But in 2018, that game does not live up to my nostalgia, my expectations. It disappointed me beyond belief, and it was a very tragic thing for me. I considered quitting. Actually, I basically did quit about 3-4 hours into it. I gave it a weekend. I tried playing a Monday afterwards, and the camera was a really big struggle for that game. But I decided that I would just try to push through it, and ultimately I did. I don't know if I regret playing it because it has helped me understand the Kingdom Hearts story and where things are going. But as has already been mentioned, that is not going to be a game that I'm going to want to replay probably ever. It has not aged well. So for that reason, it was the most disappointing game of the year. But I'm not going to stop there. I have some honorable mentions. I don't want to leave these games out of the loop because I actually found these games to be extremely interesting and extremely fun. And a couple of these games were actually very big contenders for Game of the Year. And my first game is Ni no Kuni 2. A lot of people didn't have a lot of nice things to say about this game. And ultimately, I can agree with them to a large extent. When I played it, it was extremely easy. There was very little challenge to it. But the story was, whatever. The gameplay was good, but it was such a large departure from the first game. So there were a lot of question marks, and there were a lot of changes that we really weren't sure if they were for the best possible direction that this game could go. But ultimately, I actually found this game to be really, really nice. The characters were pretty good. The story in of itself ended up being, at least something that could be interesting, even though it left some unsavory conclusions, I guess we could say. But one of the things that I really wanted to point out, and honestly, it might have just pushed the game over the top more than it should have, but I just have to once again point out how amazing the UI in Ni no Kuni 2 is. I've mentioned this a couple of times, but if I could replicate that UI, I would use that for everything. The UI in Ni no Kuni 2 is beautiful. Is one of, if not the best UI I have ever seen as far as how it looks. I'm not necessarily talking about functionality or anything like that, but the art in it is really, really nice. The layouts are really, really nice, and the spacing and the design of it is just really, really nice. So I give Ni no Kuni 2 a lot of props because of how fantastic that UI is. So that's my first honorable mention. My second honorable mention is Octopath Traveler. And this one could be a little controversial because I said I didn't like the game. And I still don't like the game. But it's only because of the story structure. I like everything else about the game. I like the majority of the stories that were told. I love the visuals and the graphics and the spell effects and the functionality. I love the characters. I love what little but still voice acting that it has in it. There's so much to like about this game, and if there ever is a sequel, which I really, really hope there is, hopefully they can go in a different direction with just the design or the implementation of how the story is being told, because Octopath Traveler really is a fantastic game. And if I ever gave any impression otherwise, man, I apologize, because the story structure weighted down the game for me significantly doesn't mean that everything else that that game does exceptionally suffers because of it. It's just that it just hurt my experience for it. But ultimately, Octopath Traveler was really really good, and I liked it, and it it needs some love, so that's why it's an honorable mention for me. And the very last game, this one might come as a surprise, but it was A Way Out. And to be honest, this one was a very big surprise for me. I wasn't sure what to expect from this. I didn't see too much of it. And on top of that, I teamed up with Dante basically for the first time in a co-op game. And so there were a lot of unknowns. I wasn't sure how Dante was going to do on his first time on stream. I never really played a co-op game with him in that manner. And so there were a lot of hesitations. There was a lot of nervousness. But Dante was such a great co-op partner for that game. And I think he just really brought out a lot of the fun and engagement in that game, and he helped bring out maybe even a different side of that game. His commentary was really really nice, and it just kind of elevated that game maybe a lot farther than it needed to be. But outside of that, A Way Out is still a fantastic game. They implemented that split screen so well, and the characters were really really well done. The story was really really well done, and there's a twist in there that caught us both off guard. And even in the end, where we needed to button mash to win, and I am not the greatest button masher, it still felt like we accomplished something great. And on top of that, it was only a 6-hour experience, so it never overstayed its welcome, and it never it didn't feel too short. It felt complete. And then I also have to give even more praise to this game, because they put it out with the intention of saying, or they put it out with the marketing of, hey, you can buy this game and you can play with anybody else. You just got to give them a little code or invite them to the game so they can download it, and you can both play together. Only one person has to buy the game. That is fantastic marketing. That is a fantastic way to get your game out there and spread word of mouth. A Way Out, I mean, if I wasn't so biased on JRPGs, to be 100% honest, A Way Out would have probably been my game of the year if JRPGs just weren't everything that I like to play. I just weight JRPGs, you know, a little bit more than other games. But those are my honorable mentions: Ni no Kuni 2, Octopath Traveler, A Way Out. It's been a really really good 2018. I played a lot of games. And there's a couple of games that I'm actually looking forward to. My most anticipated games for 2019. It may come as no surprise, but I'm looking at Trails of Cold Steel 3. I played 1 and 2. I 100%ed both of those games. I played them with the New Game Plus. I'm ready for Trails of Cold Steel 3. And even 4, although I don't think that's coming out in 2019. I'm just patiently waiting. I'm anxiously waiting. I want to get my hands on it. The second game is Kingdom Hearts 3. That one's right around the corner, and I'm ready. I did a whole Kingdom Hearts franchise playthrough just so that I could be ready for Kingdom Hearts 3. I'm ready. And then the very last game, which comes out in January, is Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition. I'm a Tales fan. I played Tales of Vesperia, I played Tales of Symphonia, and technically I played Tales of Symphonia Dawn of a New World on stream. So there's gonna be more Tales games in the future. And Tales of Vesperia is probably top 3 of my favorite Tales games of all time. So keep on the lookout for that, because Tales of Vesperia is awesome. But that's actually all the games that I got for this particular video. As I mentioned, 2018 has been a really, really good year. Looking forward to 2019. I have some varied plans. I have some solidifying plans to release other videos. I don't even have very many games on my radar for 2019, so I'm really, really looking forward to getting surprised about what games are going to be coming out and what I could expect from another year of gaming. So that's going to be it for me. I appreciate you watching, and that's basically going to be it for me. Have a good day. Peace.